Impact Wrestling, soon to be known once again as TNA Wrestling, has more momentum right now than they've had in years. With that being said, a lot of fans are curious who will be the top stars of the TNA era. You have to think names like Josh Alexander, the Motor City Machine Guns, Trinity, and Deonna Purrazzo are mainstays, are people who you can rely on to be the next stars of the new era. But there's some stars currently in the mid-card, upper mid-card echelon of Impact who could be elevated into that main event scene, who could become franchise players for TNA Wrestling, and there's no man who I could say that more about than Mike Bailey. I've been a massive fan of Mike Bailey for years, but my perception of him hasn't always been main event ready. I feel like he can be a main event guy, but his charisma isn't there, his mic skills aren't really there, and while he's one of the best in-ring wrestlers in the world, it really felt like maybe it just wasn't meant to be. My opinion of this changed when I saw his match with Will Ospreay. It's one of the best matches in this company's history, and I really believe that it's changed the perception of Mike Bailey. It's given him a lot of momentum, and I feel like TNA Wrestling soon to be should take advantage of that. While yes, there are concerns about his character, a good booker can get around that. A good booker can shift his character around to see what works, because when you're as good as Mike Bailey, you can get away with not being the best character, you can get away with not being the brightest, entertaining act on the roster when he's one of the best in-ring workers in the world. And the benefit to TNA not being at the size of a WWE or an AEW is you don't necessarily have to be a larger-than-life character to be in the main event scene, to be in that upper echelon of the roster. You don't have to be a Roman Reigns, you don't have to be an MJF. You can get over by just being a fantastic professional wrestler. People like Josh Alexander have more charisma than Mike Bailey, but he's not the most charismatic guy in the world. He's not insanely charismatic, so if Josh Alexander can be the face of the company, I feel like Mike Bailey can be up there too. There is a genuine fan base who would watch TNA more if Mike Bailey was a top guy there. He's really popular with the internet audience. He's really popular with fans who've seen his work in New Japan and the independent scene. And I feel like if he was this main event guy going for world title gold, then it would attract more of an audience. You see a match graphic on, let's say, Twitter, and it's Mike Bailey versus Josh Alexander at a pay-per-view for the World Championship. That will attract some fans. And you can make it work storyline-wise. As I've said, if you're a good booker, you can get this to work. You have Mike Bailey go heel, have this brutal streak, you have maybe his wife manage him, and you don't have to use his charisma to get him over. You can just have him be the silent killer on the roster, pummeling the roster until he gets what he wants, and that's the World Championship. All in all, if you want to capture the magic that TNA Wrestling had in its prime, you need wrestlers who can capture that magic. Mike Bailey, in my opinion, is akin in ring to AJ Styles in his prime. He's akin in ring to some of the best to do it in this company's history. AJ, using him as an example, was never the most charismatic, especially early on in his career, but he got over thanks to how good of a worker he was, and I truly believe that Mike Bailey can do the same thing. Mike Bailey can be the top star in the X division. Mike Bailey can start a tag team with Jonathan Gresham and dominate that tag division. Mike Bailey can be a world champion with a good gimmick that hides his flaws. He is one of the best wrestlers to do it right now, and if TNA Wrestling wants to get running, pushing Mike Bailey, especially after that Will Ospreay match, to the very top of your company is a hell of a way to do it.